Welcome to the deep dive. We love taking you on these custom explorations. And today we're diving into the Quran, but with a bit of a twist.
Yeah, it's a twist.
We're not going deep into history or theology today. Nope. Think of this as like Quran as literature 101.
Ooh, I love that.
Are you ready to unlock a whole new level of appreciation for this ancient text? If so, hit that subscribe button and let's get started.
I am so ready. Okay, so let's set the stage.
Yeah, set the stage.
Why is word order so important in the Quran? I mean, it's not like an everyday speech where you can kind of mix things up without changing the meaning too much.
Right.
In casual conversation, we might say, grab the red ball, then the blue one, or grab the blue, then the red. It doesn't really change the outcome.
Yeah.
But in the Quran, every single word is placed with intention. It's almost like the text is saying, pay close attention. The order I choose matters.
Yeah.
There are layers of meaning here that you won't find if you just skim the surface.
So give me an example. Where does the order of words actually change our understanding?
One that always fascinates me is how the Quran uses the word merciful and forgiving. Almost every time forgiving comes before merciful. And, that makes sense. You have to receive forgiveness before experiencing mercy.
Yeah, it's like facing consequences before you can be shown kindness, right?
Exactly. And this even connects to a core Islamic legal principle, which is the idea that preventing harm takes priority over securing benefit. But here's where things get interesting.
Right.
There's one exception. One single verse in the entire Quran where this order is flipped.
Okay, a single exception. Out of the whole Quran, there has to be a powerful reason for that. Tell me more.
It's verse 34.42. And the context is key here. It starts by describing the earth, the sky, what goes into them, what comes out of them. All very natural, cyclical imagery.
Okay, cyclical imagery.
And then it describes God as the merciful, the forgiving.
Okay, I'm seeing the cyclical imagery, but where do we fit into all of this? Where are the humans?
That's the brilliance.
Yeah.
We humans are part of this cycle, too. We return to the earth when we die, awaiting resurrection. And our sustenance comes from the sky as rain, and our deeds ascend to God. It's a subtle mirroring of our life and death journey.
I'm starting to see it.
Yeah.
So by putting merciful before forgiving, it emphasizes God's mercy at the time of death and then forgiveness during judgment.
Right.
It's a small change, but wow, it packs a punch.
It adds this incredible layer of meaning that wouldn't be there otherwise. And it's not just poetic flourish. It speaks to a deep understanding of human experience and the divine attributes.
This is making me realize how much I miss when I just read things at face value. Like there's this whole other dimension of meaning waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. The Quran is full of these examples.
Okay, so hit me with another one.
Let's take the prohibition against killing children. This appears in two verses, 6.151 and 17.31.
Okay.
Both address parents killing their children out of fear of poverty, but the word order changes slightly, and that tiny change speaks volumes.
Okay, I'm ready to be amazed. Walk me through it.
So in 6.151, it says, do not kill your children out of poverty. We will provide for you and for them. So providing for the parents comes first.
Right. The parents are the ones who are struggling, so that makes sense.
But then look at verse 17.31. It says, do not kill your children out of fear of poverty. We will provide for them and for you. Now, provision for the children comes first.
I see it. So in this verse, the parents might not actually be in poverty yet.
Right.
They're afraid of it.
Exactly.
Because of the child.
So the verse directly addresses that fear by emphasizing provision for the child first.
It's amazing how this tiny shift in word order reveals so much about parental anxieties in each situation.
It highlights the Quran's sensitivity to the nuances of human experience and the different ways that these anxieties can manifest.
Okay, these examples are incredible. I'm ready for another one.
All right, let's talk distraction.
Okay.
Surah 62.11. It describes a scene where the Prophet Muhammad is giving a Friday sermon, and all of a sudden, a trade caravan arrives in Medina.
Oh, I can imagine the commotion,
Yeah.
the marketplace buzzing, people eager for news and goods.
Exactly. And the verse mentions people leaving for trade and for entertainment. But the order in which these distractions are presented is really insightful.
Okay, lay it on me.
So in the first part, it says, and when they saw a transaction or a diversion.
Okay.
So transaction or trade is mentioned before diversion or entertainment. Reflecting the reality of that moment, trade was the main reason people left.
Yeah. But does the verse just leave it at that?
No, it goes on to offer a broader reflection, and the order is flipped. It says, and they preferred diversion over remembrance of God.
Wow. So now entertainment is mentioned first.
It's like the verse is saying, yes, in that moment trade was the immediate distraction, but on a grander scale, the allure of entertainment is the more universal challenge to remembering God.
That's brilliant. It captures the specific event and then offers a timeless insight into human nature.
It's amazing how much is packed into a single verse.
I'm seriously starting to see the Quran in a whole new light. It's like this carefully crafted puzzle.
Right?
And the word order is a key to unlocking its secrets.
I love that analogy. What other examples come to mind? How about this phrase, God has sealed their hearts and their hearing?
Okay.
It appears in a few verses. In 2.7 and 16.108, sealing the hearts comes first. But in 45.23, it's hearing that's sealed first.
That's got to be connected to the context of each verse, right?
Absolutely. Verses 2.7 and 16.108 describe people who've rejected faith at their core. So their hearts, the seat of belief, are sealed first, emphasizing that inner state of disbelief.
Okay, so what's different about 45.23?
That verse describes someone willfully ignoring God's message, like they haven't heard it at all. So hearing being sealed first emphasizes their deliberate choice to ignore the truth.
It's incredible how the order of those two words completely changes the emphasis and reveals a nuanced understanding of human behavior.
It's all about intentionality.
Right.
And it's not just the order of individual words. Sometimes the order of actions can reveal deeper insights, too.
But really, like how?
For example, in verse 2.125, God instructs Abraham and Ishmael to purify his house. For those who circle around it, those who seclude themselves for worship, those who bow, and those who prostrate.
Okay, so those actions are listed in a specific order for a reason.
Absolutely. Those 4 acts of worship, circling the Kaaba, secluding oneself for worship, bowing and prostrating, they're actually listed in ascending order of how frequently they're performed in Islam.
Oh, wow. So the verse itself mirrors the increasing frequency of these actions.
In relation to the Kaaba, yeah.
Incredible. How much symbolism is woven into that structure.
And there's more where that came from.
Okay, let's hear it.
How about Surah 62, verses 1 and 2? Here, the word order connects the two verses together.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So verse 1 starts by declaring, whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth is exalting God, the sovereign, the pure, the exalted, in might the wise. And then verse 2 goes on to say, it is he who has sent among the unlettered a messenger from themselves, reciting to them his verses and purifying them, and teaching them the book and wisdom, although they were before in clear error.
Okay, I see the two verses, but I don't quite see the connection through word order yet.
Each title of God in the first verse is mirrored by one of the prophet's functions in the second verse. Sovereign corresponds to sending a messenger.
Yeah.
As a sovereign sends emissaries, pure matches purifying people. Exalted in might aligns with teaching the book, which implies establishing law and order, and wise corresponds with imparting wisdom.
Wow. That's incredible. It's like this perfect symmetrical reflection.
Right. It highlights the deliberate parallel structure of these two verses.
The Quran's use of language is so intentional, so multi-layered.
We've only just scratched the surface, though.
Oh, there's more.
Word order is just one aspect. We've got to talk about grammatical shifts, too.
You mean like shifting verb tenses or switching between singular and plural? I'll admit, I find that stuff a little confusing when I'm reading.
It can seem jarring, but in the Quran, these shifts are totally intentional. They're used to create specific effects. It's not a mistake, it's a masterstroke.
Okay, so it's like breaking the rules strategically. I like it. But I need specifics. How do these shifts actually work in the Quran?
Well, let's start with shifts in person. You'll notice that the Quran refers to God in different ways.
Yeah, like I, he, even we.
Exactly, and each shift has a purpose. So using I, for example, emphasizes highlights God's majesty and power.
His greatness.
Right. Then using the third person, he creates distance, allows for a more descriptive style.
So it's like a director using different camera angles
Exactly.
to evoke different emotions and perspectives.
Each shift contributes to the overall impact.
Okay, I'm starting to appreciate these shifts more and more. Now, what about verb tense?
The Quran shifts between past, present, and future tense. And again, each shift serves a purpose.
Yeah.
For example, describing future events in the past tense creates a sense of certainty, emphasizes their destined nature.
Like it's already happened.
Right. It emphasizes God's knowledge and control over time. Then switching to the present tense brings immediacy, and urgency.
Ooh, I like that.
Like the action is happening right now. And finally, future tense is often used for warnings or promises,
Or consequences.
creating anticipation.
So it's all about engaging the reader on a deeper level, making them feel like active participants in the unfolding of God's plan.
Absolutely. All these grammatical elements work together to create a multi-sensory experience for the reader, engaging their minds, their hearts, their imaginations.
This is incredible. The Quran is not just about the words themselves, but about how they're used,
Right.
how they work together.
To create a symphony of meaning.
That's a perfect way to put it. But we've covered a lot of ground, and I have a feeling there's even more to explore.
Oh, trust me, there's much more to uncover. But for now, let's take a short break.
Okay.
We'll be right back with even more insights from the Quran. So we've been exploring how word order can unlock hidden meanings in the Quran. It's like a secret code embedded in the language, right?
Yeah, once you start to see the patterns, it's like this whole new dimension of understanding opens up.
Absolutely. And one pattern that really stood out to me was the phrase, God has sealed their hearts and their hearing.
I noticed that too. It pops up in a few different places, but the order of those two elements, hearts and hearing, isn't always the same.
You got it. It's not just about the words, but the sequence. In verses 2.7 and 16.1 EO8, the phrase is, God has sealed their hearts and their hearing, with hearts coming first.
I'm curious why that's a specific order. What's the emphasis there?
Well, in both of those verses, we're talking about people who are entrenched in disbelief. Their rejection of faith is deep down at their core. So putting hearts first emphasizes the state of their hearts, the seat of belief, as the primary reason for rejecting truth.
Like their hearts were closed first, and as a result, their ears were closed too. They couldn't really hear the message because their hearts were already hardened.
Exactly. It's a powerful image. But then we come to verse 45.23, where the order is flipped and has God sealed their hearing and their hearts. Now, hearing comes first.
Oh, interesting. There has to be a reason for that switch.
Yeah.
What's different about this verse?
This one describes a different kind of rejection. Not so much about deep inner disbelief, but more like a conscious decision to ignore God's message. It's like someone choosing to plug their ears and just pretend they don't hear what's being said.
Ah, I see. So putting hearing first emphasizes their deliberate choice to block out the truth.
Precisely. It's a subtle but really important shift. In one case, the sealed hearts lead to sealed hearing. In the other, the sealed hearing reflects a choice to ignore, which then hardens the heart.
Wow, these nuances are incredible. Makes you realize how much depth there is to the Quran.
It really does. It's a text that rewards you for paying attention and thinking deeply about it. And it's not just word order that matters. The actual words themselves can also be super insightful. For example, let's think about hearing and seeing, two senses that are often mentioned together.
Right. Okay, what's the usual order for those two, and what does it signify?
Usually hearing comes before seeing, which makes sense because hearing God's message is seen as the primary way to receive guidance and knowledge.
Right. I mean, the Quran was originally revealed orally before it was written down.
Exactly. But like with many things in the Quran, there are exceptions that add another layer of meaning. There are two instances where seeing comes first, and they're both pretty significant.
Really? Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about these exceptions.
One of them is in Surah 18.26, the story of the sleepers of Ephesus. Remember them?
Yeah, vaguely. Those young men who hid in a cave and slept for centuries.
That's the one. It's a powerful story about God's protection and the passage of time. But why do you think seeing is emphasized in this context?
Because they were hidden in the darkness of the cave. So it highlights God seeing them, his awareness of them, even when they were concealed from everyone else.
You got it. It's a subtle way to reinforce God's role as the protector of those who seek refuge in him. But then there's another exception. It's in verse 32.11, which describes a scene from Judgment Day.
Oh, okay, Judgment Day. That sounds intense.
It is. In this verse, the disbelievers who had demanded to see God as proof finally see him, but it's too late. Judgment has already begun.
It's a powerful image.
Right. They finally get what they asked for, but at a terrible cost.
So by placing seeing before hearing, the verse is highlighting the danger of prioritizing our demands for proof over faith and trust in God.
Exactly. We can't put our own conditions on belief.
These examples are really making me think. It's like the Quran is constantly playing with language, using these little shifts and inversions to challenge us and deepen our understanding.
It's definitely text that keeps you on your toes. And the more we dig into it, the more we uncover.
Well, I'm starting to see language, especially in the Quran, in a completely new way. But before we get too carried away, let's take a quick pause. We'll be back in a moment with even more fascinating insights from the Quran. And we're back for the final stretch of our deep dive. I'm really starting to see the power of word order in the Quran. But wait, there's a twist, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. It's not just about individual words. Sometimes the Quran links entire verses together through word order, creating these echoes of meaning.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
Let's revisit Surah 62. We've already talked about verses 1 and 2, but there's one more layer to uncover. You'll recall verse 1 describes God with these powerful titles: the sovereign, the pure, the exalted, and might the wise.
Yeah, I remember those titles really highlight God's ultimate power.
Exactly. And then verse 2 goes on to describe the Prophet Muhammad's mission. It says, "It is he who has sent among the unlettered a messenger from themselves, reciting to them his verses, and purifying them, and teaching them the book and wisdom, although they were before in clear error." Now pay close attention to how these two verses are linked.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Each title of God in verse 1 is mirrored by one of the prophet's functions in verse 2. And they're in the exact same order.
Sovereign connects to sending a messenger. Think of it like a king sending an emissary. Pure corresponds to purifying people. Exalted in might aligns with teaching the book, because establishing law and order is a display of might. And then wise obviously corresponds with imparting wisdom.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like these two verses are doing this perfectly synchronized dance.
Right.
The Quran is drawing this amazing parallel between God's attributes and the prophet's mission.
It's suggesting that the prophet's actions are a reflection of God's qualities. It's brilliant.
This is honestly blowing my mind. I never would have picked up on that connection if you hadn't pointed it out.
That's the beauty of the Quran, though.
Right.
There's always something new to discover.
Well, this deep dive has completely changed how I see language, and especially the Quran. I never thought word order could be so powerful.
It's pretty amazing, right?
It's like this secret code that unlocks deeper truths.
I'm so glad you're seeing it that way.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked a new appreciation for language in your own lives.
Yes. Remember, even the smallest choices in how we structure our words can completely change how our message comes across.
So pay attention to the order of your words, the way you emphasize things, the connections you make between ideas. You can learn so much from how the Quran uses language.
Absolutely. It can make you a more powerful and insightful communicator.
This has been an awesome journey, and we can't wait to share more deep dives with you in the future. If you've been enjoying these explorations, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out.
We'll keep bringing you these fascinating insights.
Until next time, keep those minds curious.
And those